Hi guys, so it's XD40 Lou here in the RC garage. It's been a little while, about 3 weeks or so. It's been real hectic and crazy and busy. But one of the big projects I've had in the last 3 weeks was moving back into my RC room. So I'm back in here and I'm glad I'm back in. I've got a lot more room. I got extra storage space, so glad I'm back in here. And yeah, out of the heat. So that's been the big project going on. Got my bench back in. So one of the nice things I like about having this bench in here, which this was outside, looks a little rough, but it's a great workbench. Especially I could get my toolbox in here, so I'm not going back and forth anymore. I've got all my tools with me, so that's going to make it a lot easier. But and then again, plenty of storage. Yeah, so that's going to make it a lot better. And yeah, plenty of storage. So let me show you what today's about. So on the bench, I have my Gen 8, and this is a Injora hard body Jeep Wrangler. It's called the convertible. And I've done some work on it, not a whole lot, didn't really need it. Other than I changed out the doors. And yeah, I took out a lot of the accessories. Took out the old driver, have a newer driver in there. Changed out the dog, it had Dalmatians, took out the skateboards. Really simplified things a lot more on this car. But one of the reasons I wanted to show you this car is because I have a twin for it now. This is also a Gen 8, and one of the hard parts was I had a lot of moving around to do to get to this point. I needed 2 Gen 8 chassis. Now I don't know if you guys remember when Red Cat came out with their Gen 8 pack chassis. Boy, I missed those. But I was fortunate enough that I had bought 4 of them, and they had different bodies on them. So one of the things I was able to do is I have to have a Gen 8 for this body. And the reason is I'm really particular about how my bodies fit on the chassis. And I found that these were the best fit. If you look underneath it, you'll notice that you do not see the chassis rails. Same on mine. That's also always been real important. Now on mine, just an FYI, I am changing these rear shocks out to a 65 millimeter, 70 millimeter shock. It will be shorter. I'll get a lot less travel on it, or not a lot less, but I'll get less travel on it. But it's a trail truck. It's not a, competitive or very, very capable crawler per se. It's one of the trucks that I just put a backpack on, go out to the mountains or somewhere and just go do a little hiking with it and do a little crawling with it. So it doesn't need to be super capable of rock crawling. So anyway, but I am a stickler for wheelbase and for... Now, these tires are probably not going to be the ones that are going to stay on there. But I wanted the tires that were on here for my brother's car. So this is my brother's car that I built for him. It has also a Gen 8 chassis. It's magnetic mount. It has the doors on it. And I'm kind of really liking the doors. I'm almost wishing I had left my doors on. But anyway, nevertheless, this one's his. And it is a duplicate. And it was important for me not to chop up. That's why I like the Gen 8 chassis on these. Oh, let me snap it at it. That's why I like the Gen 8 chassis for this particular body, because it fits just right. Like I said, the only drawback with this chassis is that we have to use a shorter shock for the rear. I'm okay with that. I don't have a problem with that, because I've seen a lot of guys when they go with the big shocks, or they go with an SCX-10, they're cutting up the interior and they're cutting up the back. And I don't like to do that. These bodies can be a little bit expensive, not real expensive, but I don't like chopping up the bodies on my cars. See, it's a full body in there on a Gen 8. So I find that that's the best fit for me. But the chassis does have to go through a lot of modifications. I'm going to take this off here. Give me a minute. Yeah, so to get this body to fit right on there, the modifications are you have to basically you basically have to gut the middle of the car. Battery tray gone, everything gone. And then electronics moved to the rear with a plate that I make, a custom plate that I put inside the chassis for the battery. I did give him a 1080 hobby wing. So it's all magnetic mounts in the back. I also had to modify the shocks. Now, whenever I want to shorten the towers, the shock towers, I basically do it this way. I use servo horns, and they work great in place of the shock tower. Gives me a very low profile, and again, you have to go with a this one's a 60 millimeter. On mine, because I got a little bigger tire, eventually I'll probably go with a 70 millimeter, and then I'm going to replace these tires. I would like to go to a 1.9, just basically like these. I would like to go to a large 1.9, you know, like around 120 millimeter height. So that will cut it right about there, just to have a better fit. These tires are going to, I'll probably save them for another project. Man, I've had a lot of bodies to move around. For example, the original body, that Gen 8 chassis was sitting on the FJ45. The honcho was sitting on that Element RC chassis. So that's an Enduro chassis. So what I did is I 86'd the honcho body. I really wasn't a fan of it anyway. So I got rid of the honcho, put the FJ45 on the Enduro. That gave me the Gen 8 for this truck. The Bronco, I had, on that chassis, I had the ATV, for those of you that may remember or follow the channel. So I 86'd the ATV because I didn't like the ATV on the Gen 7. I'm going to do another ATV, very similar, but I want to do it proper this time. So that left me the Gen 7, which I took the Bronco body off of that chassis, Bronco body on the Gen 7. So that's set. The FJ is set. They're on new chassis. So that gave me a chassis for my brother's car, for my new build coming up, which I'll talk about down the road. So yeah, this chassis has a lot of modifications. It's all cleaned up, all painted up. I repainted the rails. Everything is just like new, man. It's got a Apex 35 turn motor, which for my crawlers, trail trucks, I like to go with either 27 or 35 turn motors. I don't like the 55s because I don't do any serious crawling, but I also don't want it to be, you know, super fast either. So I like to be like in the middle, which is just right for me and my walking speed, and then my trail and a little bit of crawling. So yeah, he's got the light. They're basically identical. What took me so long was I had to copy this chassis. I had to make two copies. I mean, the original. I had to go from the original to a copy of this one. So that's how I enable. So they're basically identical. Let me pop the bodies back on. Okay, so there she is. They're both on here now. There we go. Had to put them on there. So I'm all done and I can move on now. So like I said, that's been like a 3-week process with moving into the room, the new room. And then this is just a spare bedroom that we had. My wife's having surgery tomorrow, so then I'll have to take care of her for a little while. But I'm hoping to ship this out early next week to my brother, and it'll be his first RC car, I hope, I think. I'm not sure if he's bought one since, but anyway, hopefully he'll enjoy it, and we'll get another new guy into the hobby, another new guy addicted to the hobby. Take care, guys. This is XD40 New signing out.